I don't mess with my sleep. So before I started studying with you, I was knocking out editing late at night. And,
Yes.
and after Troy came, my first baby, the kids, they disrupt everything. So nighttime, that's when I would get to bed 2:00, 4:00, editing videos. And when I started studying with you, the buck stopped there. It's been 10 p.m. It's been my target since 2011.
That sets you up for all kinds of problems.
And I don't mess with that. And when I do, I get a sleep hangover. It's like gluten.
Yeah.
Sleep hangover, gluten hangover. Like, I don't mess with it.
Yeah.
For that specific reason, because I know what my body does. And so don't mess with your sleep, guys.
No, it's sacred, especially in an environment like we're in with the pandemic and all the confusion and the racial tensions and all that kind of chaos in the world. The more of a stress reaction we have, the more adrenaline and cortisol we pump up into circulation, and the more overstimulated we get, and the more our consciousness goes to constantly looking for threats in the environment, and the less creative we get. So because sleep is so essential to the growth and repair and regeneration of the body and the nervous system, and which includes the brain, as a person loses sleep, their anabolic capacity goes down, 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 down. Stress is like fire. So what do you do when you have a house on fire and there's no water around? You watch it burn down. But waking up to the fact that we're the ones fanning the flames on ourselves and realizing, well, the world's always been metaphorically fucked up. There's always a battle. There's always a crisis. And as long as I've been alive, there's been something going on, right? The world is the way it is, which you and I have talked about before, and I've explained that, but most people don't have enough depth of understanding or knowledge to really look at the world for what it is. And so when we realize that the constant churning of our physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual environments are really inherently part of how the world functions and why it's here, then you can start to prioritize, okay, what is really worth me being afraid of? And, there's an old saying, I'll see if I can get it right. Lord, give me the wisdom to change what I can and to know what I can't.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm referring to.
And that's all perception. It's all an inside job.
It is an inside job, and it's a never-ending inside job.
That's correct.
And this is an interesting point, because a lot of people have this sort of weird, confused, kind of commercial, new age impression that one's a person's enlightenment, that everything's perfect in their life and they don't have to deal with problems, and somehow they're just dialed into God and they're just in a full state of bliss all the time. But people don't know that enlightenment is a never-ending process. It's just a never-ending process, and I describe it to people as this way. What happens when you try to reach the horizon? It keeps moving away from you, right? So the more you experience of God and the more deeper the questions you ask, the further the horizon keeps moving, right? And the paradox is the highest state of enlightenment is to become one with God, and then you don't even know you've done it, because there's no subject-object relationship anymore, and you don't even know you're alive. You can experience yourself as pure awareness or pure being, but you can't remember what happens there, because there is no two there. There's only one there. So the only thing you can remember is what happened on the way in and what happened when you came out of it, right. Which means now you're in a duality and you're in mind and you're trying to describe the indescribable. So the point that I'm making is people think enlightenment is being one with God. And I say, yeah, well, guess what? When you're one with God, there's nothing to know. There's nothing to do. And that's the principle of Wei Wu Wei, action without action. That's the mystery. How does that happen? And so to solve that mystery is a never-ending process. Because to solve it, you have to be in duality. Right. And whenever you're in duality, you always have the question, what happens behind this? So you see, you can't really, you cannot resolve that. Because you see, the only thing you can know about God becomes an idea about what God wants or what is. But when you enter into God, you can't have ideas because now you're in a duality, and the duality is a product of the unity. So when you're in the state of unity, there is no duality, so there's no mind.
Nothing to talk about.
There's nothing to talk about, and there's not even a self to know, because to know yourself, requires a duality.
Right.
By definition, being conscious means that you're aware that you're aware. Right? Are you aware that you're aware of yourself right now?
Yes.
That means you're conscious. But that consciousness depends upon a unity to underlie it. So if you go behind who's aware that he's aware, you get to pure awareness without subject-object relationship. And there you cannot be aware of anything, because to be aware of something requires a duality. And so the problem is that the duality presented as what God wants in Christianity is different than it is in Islam, is different than it is in Judaism, is different than it is in Buddhism, is different than it is in Hinduism, is different than it is in Sufism, is different as it is in Jainism, or is different as it is in Shinto. And so everybody argues and fights that they've got the right ideas about God, and I'm enlightened yet, but so am I. Yeah, but you're all missing the point. That's why I often quote, if you put 12 enlightened people at a round table with a multicolored bouquet of flowers in the middle and ask them all what they're seeing, even though they're enlightened, they will all tell you they're seeing something different. Because the guy over there sees black flowers, the guy over here sees white flowers, that guy sees red one, that one sees yellow, and they're not seeing what the other guy's seeing. So they start arguing, wait a minute, you can't be seeing that, but they don't realize they're all right.
Right.
And if you realize we're all right, then we'd get rid of a lot of our hassles. And if we also realized that we're just as wrong as we're right, we'd be more open to each other's opinions, and we'd all say, hey, what are you seeing over there?